ในนามของผู้บริหารคณาจารย์เจ้าหน้าที่ของสถาบันวิปัสสนาธุระก็ขอกราบอาราธนานิมนต์ท่านพระอาจารย์สุชนสุชโนวัดวรปุญญะประเทศสกอตแลนด์ได้เมตตาเป็นองค์บรรยายให้ความรู้แก่นิสิตเป็นลำดับต่อไปขอกราบอาราธนานิมนต์ด้วยความเคารพครับ
ขอบพระคุณครับอันก่อนได้ยินนะครับ
ครับผมอาจารย์ได้ยินครับ
Namathu Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Zem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to Chakun Thep and Ajahn T and everyone. So today is a second day of your practice, a second day of the retreat. There are only 8 days left to work. 8 days left to work. And I hope that you're all being enjoying and practicing diligently. Here in Scotland, this is a morning at 7 o'clock. Today's weather is not so good. Sunshine, but very chilly. It's quite cold. And last night we were having a bonfire night because of the cold. We were having a fire. And in Scotland, weather is very funny. Sometimes you can have 4 seasons in a day. So there's a snow, wind, and a rain, and you can have sunshine, and all 4 seasons you can see in a day. So seasons is always changeable, and it is always changing. So does our emotions and our feelings too. You can check yourself that how much your feelings and emotion changes every moment by moment. Things that you hear, things that you see, things that you eat, things that you come to contact, or the situation that you are in. And sometimes out of nowhere, your emotions simply change. And you feel very uncomfortable, and you feel very sad, and you feel, I don't want to do anything, or I just want to go for a walk, and like that. As the weather changes, so does our emotions and feelings too. And practice of a meditation is to understand it in its true reality. Nothing more than that. Nothing more than that. Understanding things as they truly are. And that's all we are doing in the practice of a meditation. And here in Scotland, I've been teaching meditation both in a secular way and as well as in terms of the Buddhist perspective. And with this, I have seen so many examples and so many stories that people become so troubled by their own thoughts, by their own emotions, and inability to understand what is going on. And bottom of the story is that we always think, we human beings are always thinking. And not knowing what we are thinking is the main root cause of a problem. And further on, not knowing what you are doing is the problem. And not knowing what you are saying is the problem. And bottom from it again, if you look at it carefully, what we understand that we have not concentrated mind. We are not giving our full attention to anything that we are paying attention to or anything that we are doing. Even speaking, you are not concentrating yourself. Listening, you don't have an undivided attention. Doing something, you don't have undivided attention. Now, once you don't have this fullest attention to anything that you are doing, then unlikely that you will be able to overcome or able to function properly or even doing things properly. Even here, some of you probably thinking that nobody's watching me, so I can do anything, although your faces are gazing to the Zoom, and you're probably reading a book, or you're probably watching a movies, or you're probably writing something, or you're probably talking to somebody. And in this case, you are not getting anything what I am saying, because there is no undivided attention is there. You haven't put your full attention to what is being there in the present moment. And with this, we basically not practicing meditation. So kammatthana, in Buddhism, it comes kammatthana, and I believe that we all are familiar with the word kammatthana. Kammatthana is basically the working place. Kamma means work, thana means a place, working place, or working station, a place that we are working. And here, when we talk about a place that we are working, we are not talking about anything outside work or worldly workings. We're talking about working with our own minds and the body. And that's why a Buddha talked about two types of kammatthanas. One is called a Samatha Meditation or Samatha Kammatthana, and the second is Vipassana Kammatthana. These two are the technique to develop our attention, develop our sati, to pay attention to what we are doing. Right? So Kammatthana is basically means paying attention to the things that you are doing with full attention, on purpose, okay, on purpose. And as we know that Samatha meditation is translated as tranquility meditation, serenity meditation, concentration meditation, focused awareness, and so on, or even one-pointedness of the mind. And when you have this one-pointedness of mind, what basically happens is that your mind is fully absorbed in the practice that you are doing. Your mind is fully attentively there. Your attention is there, focusing on object that you are given. And here in a Mahachula, you are requested to pay attention to the abdomen rising, falling. So ability to pay attention to, on purpose, paying attention to on this rising and falling of abdomen is the Samatha meditation. When your mind is fully absorbed in the rising and falling of abdomen, that is the Samatha meditation. But you are also instructed to observe other factors. We call it secondary objects. So there is two things comes here now you need to understand. One is the primary object, and the second is the secondary object. Primary object is the rising and falling of abdomen. You're simply paying attention to the rising and falling of abdomen. As you are paying attention to it, it gradually develops your concentration. And gradually you will be disconnecting yourself from rest of the other things, disconnecting from all the thoughts, all the responsibilities, all the duties, all the works, and you're fully absorbing it. And that is concentration. And with that, as you're concentrating on it, and whenever any other objects arises, the sound that you hear, a sensation that you feel, pain or acheness that you experience, so in that moment, you are simply requested to leave the primary object and pay attention to those objects as they are. Like a hearing is a hearing, pain is pain, itchiness is itchiness, and so on and so forth. And this is basically, you are training your mind to develop understanding of a vipassana. Understanding that how natural things changes and how natural things evolves, that continuously changing from one object to another. Our mind, in a way, never be with a one object. In the West, there is a very popular belief that when you're meditating, you're basically clearing your mind. Yeah? You're clearing your mind. And this clearing your mind, basically that they are thinking that any negativities that they have, they want to clear it away. Any negativities. And I normally tell them that it is not how it works. Suppose you have a glass of water, and in this glass of water, it's combination of all the dirts and milk. When you pour it, when you're emptying this glass, then it won't just pour the dirt, or it won't just pour the water. When you pour it, everything it's in the glass will come out, will be poured away. So does in our mind too. That is supposed to be erasing and emptying your mind. But in a practice of a meditation is not about free from your thoughts, but it's about learning how to use technique to learn those thoughts. Okay? So that's how you're simply practicing samatha and vipassana hand in hand in this practice. Okay? Samatha and vipassana hand in hand in this practice. And that's why, and as we know, the Vipassana meditation is something quite interesting one. And that's understanding the changing nature and how mind is always changing from one moment to another moment. When we try to control our mind and paying attention to the one focused mind or one object for a longer period of a time, then that's your desire. Your desire to keep your mind on one object for a longer period of a time. And you will put a lot of effort and you will put a lot of stress simply to pay attention to that object. And if you look at the Four Noble Truths, the second noble truth says, when you have a desire, that leads to suffering. When you have a desire, that leads to suffering. And now we don't want to meditate on suffering and creating more sufferings. So that's why in the practice of a Vipassana meditation, we are learning Samatha and Vipassana hand in hand. As you are paying attention to the rising and falling of abdomen, whenever any other objects arises, you're leaving this primary object and paying attention to the secondary object. And when you are paying attention to the secondary object, again, you are not pushing it away that, oh, I don't want to pay attention to this secondary object. I don't want to hear any noise. I don't want to hear any this disturbance, songs or a car going on and these things. Or I don't want to have this pain. No, you are not having this mental state of rejecting it. You're simply observing. Now, these are the words I normally use when I'm teaching here. Whenever your mind is distracted, you observe that your mind is distracted, acknowledging that distracted mind and making a mental note. Making a mental note. And then in initial stage, we simply let go. So this is the first moment. You simply let go. Let go of that secondary object which came to distract you, your attention. And this is the first stage. And then after that, you're coming back to the primary object again. This is rising and falling of abdomen. And yesterday I requested you to observe and experiment by yourself by releasing your perception, the sanya, that I have to pay attention to the breath at the nose, or I have to pay attention to the rising and falling of abdomen. So taking away that perception that we have studied and experimenting within yourself, that as you're paying attention to your body, as you're paying attention to your body, and as your body calms down, your mind calms down, what happens is that you will be able to experience that this body is breathing. Body is breathing in and breathing out. So you're feeling it from your heart, not by thinking, not by using your sanya, not by using your perception, but you're feeling from entire your body, and you're feeling from your heart that I am breathing in, I am breathing out. So that is the stage. And after that, as you zoned in, what happens is that gradually you will be able to observe that mind automatically picks up the primary object. And this primary object, in most of the cases, is the rising and falling of abdomen. And over the period of over 10 years of a teaching here in West, in the UK, I have experimented so many different ways, allowing the participants and practitioner to learn to observe this primary object and get the primary object by themselves. And now, whenever I'm teaching, I always encourage them to find their own primary object of meditation. And majority, 80 or 90% of people, those who attended the meditation, in the interview, they say that rising and falling of abdomen is more visible and more easy to pay attention to. Okay? So that's why this, and automatically as you are learning to know and observe your body, what happens is that it gradually takes your mind to observe the natural phenomena that is taking place, and that is the rising and falling of abdomen. When you're paying attention to this rising and falling of abdomen, then gradually you will gain more understanding of it. So you will be simply coming back to the primary object, which is the rising and falling of abdomen. Now, initially, when we are practicing, we have to use a lot of energy, not only the faith that I was explaining yesterday, that how much faith do you have, and how much trust do you have, and how much trustworthy are you, and then how much trust do you have in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and how much trust do you give it to the teachers, and offering yourself to the teacher. And now here in the practice, in the practice, actually you need a lot of effort. And then with this effort, you're living away and giving away all those sanya, but you're learning from yourself, the body and the mind. And that's how the primary objects becomes gradually your second nature. And whenever you are doing nothing, and that moment, automatically your mind simply absorbs in the primary object. Automatically your mind grasps this object. And without knowing, subconsciously you become a conscious of the rising and falling. When mind distracted, you will be able to understand it. Oh, my mind is distracted. And then once the distraction arises, simply telling to your mind that, okay, observing, acknowledging, noting, and let it go. Back to primary object, rising, falling. A simple formula. Simple formula. Observing, acknowledging, noting, and let it go. And back to primary object. And this is all what you have to do in initial stage. And the only fact here is the dedication and determination to pay attention to. And that is what the sati means. Sati simply means remembering to do it or memorizing it. Yeah, remembering to do it, that's what's going on and I am aware of it. So that is a sati. And here, remember to notice it every time when it happens, every time when it takes place. And that's how we are developing our satipatthana. Right? That's how we are developing our satipatthana. And the more you put an effort to pay attention to it, whatever is happening, and understanding this changing nature, it helps you. Right? It helps you to release yourself, not only the physical releasement, but also releasing your mentally, and then you feel so happy. Right? You're so happy. You feel lighter. You feel brighter. Right? Now here in the West, people are suffering from stress and anxiety a lot. And even the physical back pains or the neck pains and traumas and so and so. I always tell them to notice it. What's happening? Observe, acknowledge, note. And rather than having any clinging onto it, just let it be, let it go, and back to the primary object. And with this, gradually, they are able to deal with it. There was one lady who was going through the chronic pain for many, many years. And according to her story, she said that she's taking a painkiller for 10 years. And the doctors told her to attend one of our meditation sessions. And she attended 1 or 2 sessions. And after that, we were informed. She emailed us saying that it is so amazing that I don't need to take the painkillers anymore. And further on, she said that doesn't mean that I don't have that pain, but the perception towards this pain has changed. It's no more pain to myself now. I just observe it as pain and just return. So how beautiful this is, the practice of a meditation. Yeah? Practice of a meditation. And this is the technique that we normally practice. And in Samatha meditation, we all know, we all have gone through and studied that there are so many types of a meditation. And if I ask you, what are the Samatha meditations? You probably, without any thinking, would be able to answer that there are 40 types of a meditation. And here, in my understanding, it's not just the 40 types of a meditation. It's not just the 40 types of a meditation that is recorded in the Visuddhimagga, path of purification. Actually, in a very concise word, we could say that any object that we use to pay attention to is the Samatha meditation. Doesn't matter what we are paying attention to. Even the breath is a Samatha meditation at the beginning. Even the rising and falling is a Samatha meditation at the beginning. So at the beginning, any object that we use to pay attention to is a Samatha meditation. We are working with our mind. So that's why it's a kammatthana, working place. We're working with our mind. So in this case, when we are using the object, is basically we are taming this mind. We are taming this mind, not training yet, taming. Our mind is like a wild horse, Buddha said. Yeah? Our mind is like a wild horse. And this wild horse, if you want to use it for your own purpose, for good and benefit of yourself, you have to tame this horse. Okay? And this taming process is the Samatha meditation. So you're taming. You're following the horse until you become familiar with it. You will be feeding the horse. You will be talking to horse. Yeah? So the taming process is basically we are giving one object to this mind so that this mind will not be distracted. So all the 40 types or any object that we are using to pay attention to is the Samatha meditation. And with that, what happens is that we are disconnecting from the rest of the world. Yeah? Disconnecting from rest of the world. And this disconnection from the rest of the world, that simply means that we are disconnecting from the 5 hindrances. 5 hindrances or nivaranas, nivon. So we are disconnecting from 5 nivaranas or hindrances. And in this Samatha meditation, what we are doing is we are suppressing the 5 hindrances away from our mind. We're simply disconnecting these. And as the more you're able to disconnect from these 5 hindrances, the concentration develops more and more. And that's why it is called samādhi. Yeah? We are very familiar with the word samādhi. Yeah? I believe you do understand what the samādhi means. Samadhi, according to the Buddha's instruction, which we can find in, if I'm not wrong, in Anguttara Nikaya Book of 4, talks about it very clearly. But I would like to tell you the word, the samadhi. Okay, in English it's called concentration. Yeah, in English it's translated it as a concentration. So samadhi means concentration. Remember, not just the samatha means a concentration. Samadhi means a concentration. Samatha is just tranquilizing your mind. The mind has been tranquilized is samatha. But samadhi is also the mind is centered in an object is a samadhi. So samadhi, if you break it from the Pali language, linguistic way, itself is teaching us. Samadhi, we can break it into sam, a, and then dha. Yeah. So samadhi, dha is the word. Sam is a prefix, and a is conjunction. Okay. So sam is a togetherness. SAM, yeah, sam means togetherness, bringing together. And the same word you can you can see from the Paticca Samuppada, yeah, that sam means coming together. And a means bringing closer. And a dha means put or place. So that's why samadhi means gathering your attention on a single object. Okay? So samadhi means gathering the attention on a single object. Or basically, our mind is always paying attention to the peripheral objects. Although you are watching on the screen, your mind is thinking of so many other things. You're thinking of the mobile phone, you're thinking of your job, you're thinking of your assignment, you're thinking of the reading a book, you're thinking of the news, you're thinking of the COVID-19. So many things going on in your mind. And you don't have this attentiveness. You haven't pay attention to the single-minded object that you're at front of you. Yeah? When you are not paying attention to the object which is at front of you, basically your mind is scattered. When your mind is scattered, it hasn't got the energy. It hasn't got the power. It's like a shallow water. Okay, it's like a shallow water which spread so big, and the river which is spread so wide hasn't got the strength to develop into the electricity. So the Samatha meditation, I normally use to give a simile that think about the electricity. In order to generate the electricity, you have to concentrate the whole water, creating a dam, and then you are concentrating the water in a certain degree, certain level, and then you are releasing from very narrow hole. And with that narrow hole, as the current of the water flows, and that's how it creates the electricity. And our mind is like that too. When our mind is scattered, when our mind is not concentrated, it hasn't got the energy. The energy has been wasted. And that's how we are disturbed. That's how we cannot focus. That's how we are not functioning properly. The moment when you develop your understanding and concentrating, that basically means your mind is focused. Your mind basically creating this energy so that you can channel it through and gain more power to deal with the situations that we are in. So that's why samadhi basically means unification of your mind. Okay, unification of your mind from scattered, which basically we are always paying attention to the rest of other objects rather than the object that we intend to. Okay? And this is how the practice needs to be done. And in order to gain the samadhi, if you are not practicing properly, unlikely you will understand. No way that you will understand. If you can't even spare some times to practice, even you can't spare your time to practice meditation, even this 10 days, which is again your responsibility. Actually, this is your duty. This is your responsibility that you have to fulfill. If you can't even do this time, locating this time for the practice, unlikely you can solve your problems in your life. I doubt it. You will be scattered all around, because you even can't focus the duty that you're supposed to do. So practice of a mindfulness is a practice of a samatha meditation, or using the object, is basically we are paying attention to one object until we gain the samadhi. And that basically means our mind not distracted. Our mind is fully zoned in. Here, zoned in here means aware of a rising and falling of abdomen as it takes place. Rising, you're consciously aware it is rising. Falling, you're consciously aware it is falling. So that's the first stage we have to develop. And then the second one, as we develop this awareness of a rising and falling of abdomen as it is taking place, what happens is that we feel calmer, we feel lighter, and we feel so comfortable. Our mind becomes sharp. And that moment, as we are paying attention to the rising and the falling of abdomen, whenever you hear the noise, whenever you feel something other different experiences, you immediately able to catch it straight away. And that quality you need to develop by paying attention to one object at one time for a significant of a time. And with that, it's become a second nature. Whenever something changes, you're immediately able to observe it. And that's why I use the word observation, acknowledgement, noting, and letting go. Okay? So that is the one. So that's why Buddha used in Anguttara Nikaya, Buddha used chittassa ekagata. Yeah? I believe you, many of you are quite familiar with the word chittassa ekagata. Chittassa means mind. Eka means one. Yeah. Aga means coming. And a ta means a ness. So one-pointedness. Mind is one-pointedness. Here, mind is one-pointedness basically means mind is undistracted. So undistracted mind. The state of undistracted mind is samadhi. And that's how we gain the Samatha meditation. And this samadhi we will gain not because we have just thought that I need a samadhi, or not just because I'm thinking that, oh, I need it. No, it won't happen. We have to develop it. We have to cultivate it. That's why it comes bhavana. Yeah. So in English, bhavana means cultivation or development. So all what we are doing is bhavana, not a samadhi. Yeah? We are not doing samadhi. We are not doing samatha. We are doing bhavana. Basically it means we are doing something. And out of doing something, this is bhavana, we will get samadhi. We will get samatha mind. Okay? And that's why it's called kammatthana. Yeah? Kammatthana is basically means bhavana. Because bhavana is, the word comes from bhavati, or to be. And then what a person who is doing is called bhavati, means it means the development or developing, or bhavati means to develop or to bring to be, yeah, or to bring to be, to arouse. So that is a bhavana. So that's what we are doing, bhavana. Yeah? When we are doing bhavana here, the instruction is that you are requested to pay attention to the primary object. Okay, primary object. When you are paying attention to the primary object, every time when you are hitting this rising, this falling, then that simply means you are cultivating, you are developing. It's like a training when you are going to learn how to play a musical instrument. Beginning, you don't know how to put your fingers and how to hit the notes. But as you practice one after another, gradually you become skilled. And it's also like driving a car. If you've never driven a car, you don't know how to drive a car. So you have to learn it. When you learn to drive a car, and it's become easier. Okay, it's become easier. And all what it needs is, when you are learning, whether it is a musical instrument or whether you are learning to drive a car, you need to pay full attention. Not like you're doing something else and doing something, expecting to do something else. Like even I see here, sometimes it does annoy me too. It's supposed to be a time of a practice and doing everything all around. You're not paying attention to at all. And in a way, I feel like it's not just disrespect to the teachers, but also disrespect to the Dhamma too. And also you're disrespecting yourself, because you're not respecting your responsibilities. So but anyway, so this bhavana is basically learn to develop wholesome qualities in us. Okay, wholesome qualities in us. And that's why the virya, you have to put a lot of effort. It's an urgent practice. Atapi, urgently practice. You have to put a lot of effort. And in this effort, what is happening is that any unwholesome qualities that you may have, you are reducing it, not allowing it to come again. Yeah? So that's the first virya, first effort. The sluggishness, or want to give up practice, or want to do something else. So you're basically giving up that thought and not doing it. So that's the first attempt you have to do. And the second is that any unwholesome qualities you may have, you are simply abandoning it, eliminating it. And once you have fully eliminated these unwholesome qualities or unwholesome state of the mind, that helps you to develop the attention and so wholesome deeds, a wholesome mindset. And that wholesome mindset helps us to encourage us to practice more. Okay, now this is my time to practice meditation. Now let's do it. So this is wholesome qualities you are developing. And this is my time to practice. So I'm going to give up everything, all the responsibilities, all the duties. I'm going to solely focus on this practice. At this time of 1 hour or 2 hours of walking and a sitting meditation, I'm going to dedicate to myself and then learning it. It is not just for the fulfillment of the university's requirement, but also learning myself, understanding myself. And that is what you need to develop. That's the third virya, yeah? Developing the wholesome qualities in you. And the fourth one, whatever good qualities that you have developed, let's say, throughout this 10 days time, you're going to dedicate this slots of meditation sessions. I'm fully going to dedicate it, and then will disregard all the rest of other jobs, other responsibilities. Then what happens? You're maintaining it every day, maintaining. And that maintenance is really, really important. In order to gain a good understanding and good practice. Otherwise, it's like a breaking, and we would not get a good understanding of our own self. So continuity is the key for the success in anything, and so does in the practice of a meditation. So if you are continuously practicing diligently, persistently, ardently, then the success is in your hand. And that's really a good requirement. In terms of the practice of the designated time here in the West, in Aberdeen, whenever I'm teaching, I'm always telling people that I'm not asking for half an hour. I'm not asking for 15 minutes of a practice in daily life, because they are so busy. Like I can see you're all also busy, busy doing something, like being a busy bee. And here, whenever I told them that, okay, you need to spare 15 minutes of a time a day to practice meditation so that you can gain more insight into the practice. What normally happens is that they say, oh, I'm very busy. I have so many responsibilities. I have so many jobs to do. It's unlikely that I can spare this 15 minutes a day. And normally I instruct them saying, okay, I ask you to have 15 seconds of meditation. Can you imagine 15 seconds? Do you think you can do 15 seconds of a meditation? Yeah? Is it easy? Yeah? 15 seconds of a meditation, is it easy? Do you think that we can continue doing 15 seconds of a mindfulness meditation? Do you think that you can pay attention to this rising and falling of abdomen for 15 seconds? We think we can. Yeah? Our perception says we can. And if we don't have a good concentration, unlikely we can do it. We would not be able to do 15 seconds of a meditation. And further on, in the practice of a rising and falling, or this Satipatthana meditation, you are encouraged to be mindful of your daily routine. The moment when you wake up, the way you are walking, the way you are eating, the way you are in the toilet, or whatever you are doing. And here, I only advise them to do is doing a 15 seconds break, stopping for 15 seconds. So you wake up, lie down. Before you coming out from your bed, spend 15 seconds observing yourself, observing the entire body and observing this rising and falling for 15 seconds. Yeah. Someone texted saying that we can do it. Very good. So I believe you can do 15 seconds. Okay. So, and here you're just sleeping. As you're just wake up, paying attention to the 15 seconds of a minute, seconds, paying attention to your body and rising, falling. And as you come out from your bed, standing, spending 15 seconds before you walk away, spending 15 seconds. And even when you are in the toilet, yeah, before stand up or before sitting, spend 15 seconds. Before eating, 15 seconds. So any action that you are going to do, spend 15 seconds. And I believe, and I do know that it changes tremendously in your behavior. And I have seen so many examples here in Aberdeen, in Scotland, that people, those who are practicing 15 seconds of a meditation in their daily lives, have changed their mindset, their well-being. So I also encourage you during this time, pay attention to the 15 seconds, and which normally we do, standing. When you're practicing standing position, standing, standing, standing. Yeah? So rather than thinking about it, feeling that standing position, the entire body is standing. And that is why normally when I'm teaching a standing position, I normally tell them to feel the entire body. So standing, the first standing is feeling the entire body. And a second, feel the support from the ground. Yeah, feel the support from the ground, the entire body is standing. And a third, feeling how grateful that I can stand. Yeah, feeling how grateful I'm standing. Here, you're basically bringing your awareness to observe the entire body and what's going on in your body. And as you step on walking meditation and walking with a very gentle, walking with full of kindness and compassion towards the earth, Mother Nature, every step that we are taking on the Mother Nature, you are taking with full of compassion. And when you are putting your feet on, suppose there are plenty of ants and you have to step on, it will be so gently you're placing. Or suppose there is a water on the surface, you will be placing the water, you're placing your foot so gently. And that's how you practice. So as you say, right goes thus. It's not like forcing yourself to do it. You become a gentle to yourself, kind to yourself, and lifting with very gentle, very kind to your feet, your body. And as you lift, you're enjoying that lifting, and then placing. Yeah. So right, lift, and place. Lifting, placing, or the first stage is right goes thus. So you're placing with very, into it. You're giving full attention to your lifting foot. So right goes thus, and left goes thus. And if you are doing with this way, you are not only respecting your body, you are not only respecting your own life, but also you're gaining such insight in your mind. And you will be able to notice that how these things changes. So do not think that you have to rush to the different stages up to the 6th stage of a walking meditation. The first stage is the most important stage. If you can do correctly the first stage, and the rest becomes easier. So we have to have a right understanding of the right goes thus. Now with the full of kindness and compassion, full attention is there, and you are doing this. And that is the Vipassana meditation. So you are paying attention to, as well as understanding things, what's happening. And in a practice of a Vipassana meditation, over the period of a time when I'm coming, I will be explaining furthermore. But I just would like to give you that the object of a practice of a meditation, this insight meditation, is basically the mind and the body, or 5 aggregates. Nothing more than that. You're not thinking of gaining any supernatural powers. You're not thinking of, after meditation, I will be reborn in the heavens. I will be reborn in different heavens, or I will be getting Sotapanna next day, or getting enlightenment. We're not thinking of that at all. All what we are doing is knowing things as they truly are, as it is happening in this present moment. So that's all. That's all what we are doing. Nothing more than that. Things what's happening, we are only aware of that. And that's all is in our body. In our body. And obviously, understanding of our senses, how our mind, or how our 6 senses works, and then how these, as we pay attention to the 6 senses, and these dependent origination will emerge, the Four Noble Truth emerge. We don't have to think of it at all. It will just comes. So that's why the practice of an insight meditation is so simple. All what we need is to put full effort and pay attention to it, what's happening when it is taking place. And my simple formula I would like to give you. Yesterday, I asked you to give away your perception that I have to pay attention to the breath, or I have to pay attention to the abdomen. I ask you to experiment and find your own primary object. And I have given you the examples that 80 to 90% of the people found rising and falling of abdomen is much easier to pay attention to, and easier to gain the samādhi. And whenever you are paying attention to the one object, the primary object, that moment when mind is distracted, you simply use this formula: observation, acknowledgement, noting, and let it go. And that's how you're coming back to the primary object. And this way you are learning to know more. Most important, I would like to say today, is that pay attention to anything that you are doing with the full attention. So apply undivided attention to the things that you are doing. And that will bring the more samadhi and more understanding. And in our case, simply pay attention to the rising and falling of abdomen. And as you're walking, and fully absorb in that walking meditation. Right goes thus, left goes thus, like that. Okay. So, and this is, I would like to end here for tonight's my talk. As one question came asking that how can we do meditation within a COVID situation in the body? Problem with a breathing situation. COVID, well, in Scotland, just let me. In Scotland, we are locked down for many months. We cannot travel from one province to another province for many, many months. We are isolating ourselves. Okay. And from tomorrow, the government has announced that we can travel and all the businesses are going to open here in Scotland. So after many months of lockdown, okay? And throughout this time of lockdown from last year, April 2020, I have been giving talks and I have been giving meditation guidance almost every night. Okay? And last year, at the beginning of the COVID-19, there were people listening and following and practicing over 300 people. Okay? From there, I can say that the practice of meditation is one of the best solution, okay? Best solution to deal with this COVID-19. Number one, you have nothing to do during this time. You can't go out and mingle with anybody. So take this opportunity to practice. Okay? So that's the number one. Just stay in home and learn, enjoy. And when you are in your place, what happens is that you will have so many different sensations arises, emotions arises. Okay? Sensations and emotions arise. At that moment, pay attention to that emotion. When you pay attention to that emotion, automatically what happens is that your mind will go to the breath. Mind needs an object to survive. Without an object, there is no mind. So mind automatically grasps the object, breathing. And if you're familiar with what you've been doing, suppose if you're practicing rising and falling of abdomen, mind automatically takes that breath, the rising and falling of abdomen. If you've been practicing the breathing meditation, mind automatically collects contact to the breathing meditation. And with that, you will be paying attention to that breath, breathing in and breathing out, okay? Or rising and falling. And in terms of the bodily breathing meditation, there are so many ways that you can practice. Buddha mentioned so many ways, counting the breath, taking a long breath and a short breath. And these again, breathing long, breathing short. If you are doing correctly, you don't have to force it. You will know it, and that will help you. Okay? That will help you to deal with that. So the first thing is, if you have COVID-19, then you can practice long breathing meditation, taking a long breath and hold and releasing it slowly, and that would help. But that would not be the complete of it. You need the medical assistant for that. Okay, and this is just the one option that we can practice just to be alive, and just to breathe, sustaining our life. Okay, so COVID is not the problem. Problem is our self going into and mingling and not separating ourselves. So if we practice meditation and living in the same place, not mingling and not engaging with anybody, you will not get it, and you don't need to worry at all. Okay. So I will end here for tonight's talk, and may you all be well and happy. Wish you all the best with your practice, and I hope that you will be practicing genuinely for the greater benefit of yourself and then greater understanding. So there's, I'm not sure how long have I got to answer the questions. Maybe next day, day after tomorrow, I'm coming back on Tuesday. If you have any questions, then I can answer. So there's one more question came. He said, why my mind cannot concentrate for meditation? Now, concentration meditation, we have two things to understand. As I mentioned today, there are two types of meditation. One is concentration meditation, and another one is Vipassana meditation. Now, if you're looking for the concentration meditation, that basically means you are trying to focus on one object. Okay, but in the practice of a Vipassana meditation is not about focusing only one object, but having a primary object to work, and whatever comes, you are aware of that. Okay? And the reason behind you cannot concentrate, as so many other factors comes, and that's why number one, you have to practice 5 precepts at least, so that all the physical activities been reduced. Sorry. and then verbal actions needs to be reduced. So suppose you are not talking to anybody and you are not doing anything, it helps you to concentrate more easily on the object. Okay? So that's why you have to have a faith in it, and then you have to put sufficient energy to pay attention to the object. So you need the right mindset, attitude, and with that you're paying attention to it, the primary object, and with that gradually you will gain the concentration. There is no shortcut to gain the concentration. The more you practice, the better you will become. But here in the practice of a rising and falling of meditation, or known as a Satipatthana meditation, we are not looking for the solely concentration meditation, but we are learning from concentrating on one object, and then whatever comes, you're paying attention to it. That's why I use the formula called observation, acknowledgement, noting, and let it go. And that's how I gradually gain the concentration. Okay. Right, so I think I end here for today, and wish you all the best, and thank you everyone for listening, and I hope it helps you, and then I will come back in 2 days later. So may you all be well and happy.ท่านอาจารย์อยู่หรือเปล่าครับ
ครับ
ครับผม
ถวายความเคารพพระอาจารย์ด้วยความเคารพครับมีญาติโยมท่านใดที่ประสงค์จะสอบถามปัญหาธรรมะนะก็ขอเรียนเชิญเจริญพรได้สอบถามก่อนได้นะครับให้เวลาประมาณ10 กว่านาทีนะก่อนที่จะได้เข้าสู่ภาคของการปฏิบัติวิปัสสนากรรมฐานต่อไปนะครับ
You can ask any question on meditation or anything. I will try to answer. Okay. If I can't, I will still answer, say no. ถามเป็นภาษาไทยก็ได้นะ
อาจารย์ขาวัดไทยที่เอเดนเบิร์กอยู่ตรงไหนอะคะ
อ๋อโยมถ้าคำถามแบบนี้เราไม่ถาม ให้ถามเฉพาะคำถามที่เป็นธรรมะถ้างั้นมันจะเสียเวลาคนอื่นเขานะอันนี้เราไม่ถามนะให้สนทนาเฉพาะธรรมะพอ
มี